what I really love is that at first you have no idea why he's selected. Um, and and neither do the neighbors. He's receiving these presidential alerts that are saying report to this naval base, or report to this, sorry, Air Force base with your family. Um, and it's very specific and it seems very authentic, but at the same time, it makes no sense whatsoever. And nobody else is getting these messages. And why is it him? Um, but yeah, as it transpires, he has certain skills. They're nothing spectacular. This is not Mike Banning and the Has Fallen. He doesn't. He's not trained to protect anybody, but he's an engineer, and the government are already looking to a world that's going to look very different. And nobody knows how many people are going to make it through this comet strike. There is no escaping it. But so therefore, who is going to be involved in the new world order? And that would be obviously people like doctors and nurses, engineers, people who can rebuild, people who can create, people who have certain skills that would be useful to a society basically starting again in a very different part of the world, which is, of course, is Greenland. And I feel like that comes with a certain amount of relief, because he now has a chance. They have a fighting chance to make it, but even then, there's still it's by no means easy, and even they don't realize what those challenges are going to entail just to get to that Air Force base, just to get in. But I think it also leaves them with a sense of survivor's guilt. Why us? Why were we chosen? It could have been any of. I know he's not the only structural engineer on the planet. Why are they choosing him and not any of the others? Or why would this nurse be chosen, or this doctor? Or so it's a very interesting time. We're all facing the same challenge. Humanity, suddenly we recognize each other. And we see that whether you're in China, whether you're in the US, or whether you're in Europe, we're all facing the same problems, as is the case with the Comet Clark. It is the great equalizer. But within realizing that at that point, the fragility of humanity and how we are all just the same, there is also this elitist thing still going on, as we've seen today. Some people could get tests easier. Some people have access to better treatment. And in this case, in our movie, some people are being chosen and some people aren't. And of course, the ones with money are going to have more of a chance to maybe escape this. Probably not, but more of a chance. So I liked both those different aspects, but again, it leads into what I felt was the authenticity of the movie and the complexity of what it means to both the family and then the more macro to humanity as a whole, as they face their ultimate demise, and the various ways that plays out. Whether it's this, again, a thing that I loved in the movie is all the different reactions to that, whether people are protesting or celebrating or looting. It's like you're defined by the challenge in front of you, and this challenge is really in people's last moments. How are they going to be defined? And who does play a hero? Who is a coward? Who doesn't care? Who doesn't believe? Or who sacrifices themselves for others? Who fights for their own, for their family? It's the kind of the messiness and the all-inclusiveness of all these different, which we are seeing today again, and the different reactions to what's going on in our world. I think on the one hand, John feels like he has a lot to make up for his family. He's living with an exceptional amount of guilt, which we discover as the movie goes on exactly what is happening. But there's obviously been a breakdown in his relationship with his wife. He feels very badly for his kid, who he can see is hurting from what's been going on between them. So he now feels this additional responsibility to make sure that his family is safe. But even more than that, what I like is just the regular normality in some ways of this man, who could be any man. He's every man. He's just a father who will do anything to protect his wife and his kid. And that's something that I think is, again, why I know from my experience and friends and other people that have seen it, why they find it so powerful is, in some ways, the lack of heroism in these heroes. You know, they're everyday heroes. It's not one man standing against a country or one, you know, to be honest, the kind of roles I often play myself, this is not that guy. He has no special skills. He just has a lot of love and passion and courage, which I think would be brought out in almost anybody in these circumstances. But you also see it coming from John's wife, Alison, and even from the kid. Even the kid has his moments where he has to stand up and be incredibly courageous to help keep his family together, you know. And again, that's what I loved, was that in the family, you know. And then also seeing that as we brush past people, as we come into contact with other people who are heroes who help us, who are villains who try to stop us in our way. And it's again another theme that I really liked in the movie, was this idea of there's a little bit of good in even the worst of us, and a little bit of bad in even the best of us. And I think that that's really what this movie paints so beautifully as we go on this road trip to try and survive, is people doing good actions, bad people doing the right actions in moments, and then good people doing terrible things, but maybe for the right reasons. And so you as an audience, you're so involved and you're being dragged into this, but at the same time, you're like, it's so hard to kind of accuse or point the finger, because you go, would I do the same thing? I'm only trying to save my wife. So it's fascinating in that respect. I think what I love is the movie becomes, one, it's highly entertaining and exciting, but then it really becomes a conversation afterwards as to, you know, again, who we are and who would we be in this situation. There is an element of redemption in John Garrity's story. And part of that, I think, is conscious. He's very aware at the start of all this going on, where he's at with his wife and what he's feeling, the guilt of past actions. But then a lot of the redemption also is, his redemption comes also from a place that's not conscious. He's not trying to redeem himself. She just sees in her husband the good aspects that come out at a time like this, when humanity itself is in this incredible crisis, as are they, and she sees what her husband does and knows what he's gone through. And of course, he knows, I mean, he has to pay the ultimate sacrifice in a way, to try and get back to his family, and he goes through so many incredible traumas to try and get there, and including, as I say, like the kind of the ultimate sacrifice in some ways as to what a man would do to ensure his survival. But in that moment, it's not even about his survival. It's literally about getting to his family to ensure their survival. And again, that's just so beautifully crafted, and involves one of the most violent and again, I'd say truthful, because it's a violent scene where he's fighting for his life and the life of his family. But it's, again, as is our movie, it's messy and real and just pure passion and emotion and terror, and it's ugly, and it's very, very destructive. But at the same time, that is part of the sacrifice which brings his redemption.